Broadcasting live from Youngville, North Carolina and Ontario, Canada, this is Got Mead Live, a weekly show where Vicky Rowe and AJ Aramutz bring you the mead news, meadery info, and mead-making discussions from all over, talking with mead makers, mead owners, industry mavens, and influencers. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly podcast about mead and the people who love it and where the mead world is going. And now here are your hosts, Got Mead owner Vicky Rowe and mead and wine maker AJ Aramutz.
Live from the den of the puppies of the apocalypse and the bunny pen in Ottawa, Canada, it's Got Mead Live. Welcome to the show. This week we've got Mike Faul, who you may know as the owner of Rabbit's Foot Meadery, but he's also opening a second meadery in Ireland, and he's going to be talking about that tonight. And also, we're going to talk about peak honey. When are we going to hit the wall on how much honey there is versus how much we're using? Be an interesting conversation. And we're also going to take a little look into what Mike's been doing with meadery automation. He's an IT geek who also is into automation controls, so he's doing some really interesting stuff with that. He totally flattened me when I went to see it a couple years ago when I was out there. So some pretty neat stuff coming tonight. So all y'all know, we do this because just like you, we love mead. Unfortunately, I can't seem to pay the folks that give us or that charge us for space and the radio software, et cetera, in mead. They don't get it. I don't understand it at all. But so that's why we have the patron program to help, to keep the site up and running. And for those of you wondering what the hell's a patron, well, it's a $30 a year membership, about 50 cents a week. Gets you access to the patron boards in the Got Mead forum on our patron Facebook group. Basically, what you're doing is you're helping to support Got Mead and to keep me out of trouble with my husband, so I'm not pulling out of the personal budget to pay for Got Mead. So, yeah, it's better if I don't do that. He gets mad at me when I do that, so I don't know why.
Can't imagine.
Like, honey, why are you doing that? But so I just want to say thanks for all the people who signed up as patrons and have renewed in the last week, and thank you. You're very much appreciated. For those of you that are wondering, if you're interested in doing that, you can go to gotmead.com, click on the forum. Once you get to the forum, if you have a user ID in the forum, log in and then click Become a Patron. If you don't, then create a free registration, which, by the way, gets you access to about 90% of the forum, and then click Become a Patron, and it'll walk you through the process. It goes to PayPal. You don't have to use PayPal. You can use a credit card without having a PayPal account. So thank you again to those of you who have either signed up or renewed in the last week. Thanks a lot. It really does help. Okay, so if you want to listen to us, you can catch us, obviously, at gotmead.com. Click Got Mead Live Radio Show. It's live when we are. And if you want to listen to us later, like when you're doing your drive time or making mead or cleaning the house or what have you, my husband's case would be deer hunting, is what he's doing every weekend until the end of the year. You can check us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. Just search Got Mead Live. And if you want to find us on social media, Facebook, we are facebook.com/gotmead, and facebook.com/groups/gotmead is our main group. And then on Twitter, we are at gotmeadnow. Feel free to tweet us. I'm watching the feed during the show and can take questions. If you want to send us a question, just go put your mouse over Got Mead Live Radio Show on the website, and there's a drop down there where you can fill out a form that, send us whatever you want. Questions, comments, suggestions for speakers, people that you want to come on the show, just let us know. And no, I don't think it's your laptop. My connection's all over the map tonight. I don't know what's going on. Both my phone and the local network are going, yeah, fuck you. If you want to call us, so I apologize, guys. It's only as good as my connection, and my connection is apparently kind of crappy tonight. So if you want to call us, feel free to call in at 803-443-MEAD. That's 803-443-6323. So what are we drinking tonight?
I've got the Helderberg, because I didn't drink it all last week. It's still good. It's extremely floral. I'm getting more of the honey, and there's this I'm getting this interesting spicy note that now that it's sat around with the glass out of the bottle for a while, and it's a spicy aroma to it. That's later I'll blurt it out. That's if I blurt out a random word, that's what it is. But it's just as pleasant as it was before, only a little bit an interesting spiciness.
Cool.
And what have you got?
I am drinking. I was gonna drink some mead from Rabbit's Foot, but apparently I drank it all except for a bottle of Odin that I had left. And the Odin is one of his high-end meads that I got like ages ago. It's been sitting there waiting for a special occasion. So it's gonna go with us to Florida next month and get drunk while watching the sunset on the Gulf of Mexico. So, and I told Mike that too. So I'm drinking Detroit City Meadery or Motor City Meadery, which is at Motor City Wine. It's Kirk Reedy's place. We had him on the show a little while back, and it's a strawberry vanilla draft mead. So got a growler of it while I was there, and I'm finishing it off because basically the whole fridge was full of growlers. John's like, "You need to drink those."
In the fridge.
Yeah, seriously, there was like no room for food. It was terrible. And so yeah.
And you laugh at me for having two fridges.
I know, right? Well, he told me,
And they're full.
he said when you get back from Poland, you're gonna get a fridge, we're gonna put it in the basement, and your mead can go in that. So I was like, okay, he's right, we need to, and he wants his beer fridge back. So, uh, but anyway, so this is really good. It's tangy. It's got that strawberry tang to it. Lots of strawberry flavor, like in the nose, in the mouth. It's just exploding. Just a little vanilla, not a ton, just enough. And it's really bright. It's got that puckery strawberry thing going on, and the finish goes on for miles. I mean, it's just keeps going and going and going, which is a good strawberry mead, generally speaking, will do that. So
Cool.
yeah, if you guys are interested in finding out, they're actually in the old Stroh ice cream building in downtown Detroit. MotorCityWine.com. It's a really cool old building. And unfortunately, if you want this one, it's only on tap. You're going to have to go there. So tap and growlers only, but well worth it. And if you're anywhere near Detroit, I highly recommend stopping at Motor City Wine. So it's really good stuff. So hopefully my connection won't like not get all flaky again. It's been going up and down like a yo-yo.
So, what are we getting Rob in now?
Yeah,
Sorry,
we're gonna
Mike in now?
get Mike in now. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to type and talk at the same time.
Yeah, I'm reading and talking at the same time, which
Yeah,
works even worse.
yeah. Okay, here we go. We'll get him in here. But yeah, this is a really I like this. This is a really nice little mead. I'm gonna have to go get more now.
Mike.
Hi, Mike. Welcome back.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. You guys getting any cooler weather in Northern California yet?
Well, it was a little cooler yesterday, but it's typical days here in the Bay Area. It could be 50 degrees, it could be 90 degrees.
That's true. I hope you guys
We
aren't
got hail today.
Hail, yeah.
Well, at least it's cool enough now to where the fires are a little bit more under control up north of us.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if those got anywhere around you guys.
No, they're typically, well, these not typically, but these ones are north of the Golden Gate Bridge, and we're down in San Jose, south of that. And there are others going on down in L.A. and south of L.A., and those are some pretty big ones too.
Yeah, I was looking at the satellite pictures from the the pictures from the ISS that they were showing. It was terrifying. I can't even imagine. My heart goes out to the folks that are stuck in that, man.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Here, I'm ordering the snow machine for next week.
So I find myself with only one bottle of Rabbit's Foot mead, and I hit your store, and there's like 4 meads on there, and I know you have more than that. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure something. We are gonna have to talk, my friend. We are gonna have to talk.
Yeah.
I am like.
I gotta talk to the boss about that. She's the one that. The boss being my daughter now. She's the one that puts everything up on the online store. So.
Okay, well I'll give her some crap then. But yeah, I totally got to get some more. I can't be out of your meat. I can't. That's not right.
We'll send you some somehow.
Yeah, I need to go look at the website and see what the current stuff is and make a list, and then figure out some
Yeah.
way to get it. I know it's not on the
When-
store, but we'll figure something out.
Sure. When do you head out of town on your
Uh
trip?
oh, for Poland, I leave Tuesday.
Tuesday. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
We won't send it this week.
Yeah, no, don't do that. I'll be back on the 21st.
Okay.
So, but yeah, that bottle of
Okay.
Odin though, which is the sole remaining bottle of your stuff that I have, is going with me to Florida, and it's going to get drunk on the beach next to the Gulf, where we're going to be staying in the Keys.
Well, that's a good place for it.
I thought
And
so.
it's probably one of the last existing bottles then, because I'm sure most other people have drank all theirs.
Oh, really? Oh, you haven't made that again? I thought that was one that you did like every so often.
No. The Odin we discovered was made from a honeydew
Oh.
from this one beekeeper, and if I could get that beekeeper to get me some more, I would absolutely make some. But he's like, "Oh, that was just a mistake, and I don't know where it came from." And I'm
Oh my
like, "Okay, well,
God. It was a mistake. It was a really tasty mistake.
it was a damn good mistake."
Yeah. Shoot, that's an amazing mead. So yeah, I was stunned to
Yeah.
find I still had a bottle. I thought I drunk my last bottle of that.
Yeah, I don't even have any.
Oh
There
wow.
was even then we took some of another mead, like our sort of more traditional mead, and put it in the barrels that the Odin came out of, and that's been sitting in those barrels for about 2 years now, and it's pretty damn good. And so we bought it a little bit of a while ago, and just to test it, see if people liked it. It's called Loki, right? The trickster, because it kind of it's like Odin, but it's not. Right. Yeah. And then 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we released our 7-year aged Tupelo mead. So Tupelo honey, and that's pretty damn good too. What's new in the world of Goth mead?
I think it just got fixed again.
Uh-oh.
And I think Vicky might have muted herself and forgotten to unmute.
Oh yeah, you're right. I did. Sorry.
Uh,
Yeah. No, we're Got Mead's getting ready for the next round of overhauls. We're getting ready to move it to a new forum and something a lot more stable and a lot more friendly. And then I'm gonna do a complete rewrite on the site, complete redesign, which will probably take like a couple of months. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to that, but it needs to happen. So. But yeah, it's getting there.
Cool.
Yeah. And going meadery hopping next month in Florida. Hopefully, I'll get out to the West Coast again.
I'm planning. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I'm planning on doing some things in 2020, right? So we're 20, and so my plan is to do 25 different collaborations. Right? So 12 cities and thing happens.
Okay. Sorry.
Electrons flow, and the next thing you know, it's all working again.
Yeah, I lost.
Oh, you've got the magic touch, have you? That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, he's an IT geek. Can you guys hear me okay?
Over 20.
Okay, my connection just took a dive, man. So, yeah, I'll bet you John bounced the box because it does that sometimes. Anyway, so we're back. So, so Mike, you've got some cool shit going on with you built a meadery in Ireland, right?
Well, yeah. So I partnered with a friend of mine in Ireland who owns a brewery, right? And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to actually make mead in Ireland. And I was going through the whole process of figuring out what was needed to do that. And it turns out that it's relatively simple as far as dealing with the government and paperwork. But the hardest part is actually, of course, building the meadery, getting the equipment in place, the cost and expense of that equipment, of course. And then if you're not making mead full time 100%, then it's kind of pointless to actually have a a large physical presence, paying for rent on a building and not being able to do much with it other than just, make a batch or two a couple times a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to my buddy who owns a brewery, and he was interested in mead himself and had applied for a license back in 20. I made some deals with several of them and agreed to pay them the full retail price minus the cost of the jar, the lid,
right,
and the label.
Which makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for them, it's a great thing, right? Because we had a couple of trips in between, things were the way that we wanted them to be, and just to kind of organize the production of that particular product. So it turns out we made about 450 cases of 75 or 370 for that. Now you've had our Malia before. Think of this as being Malia, but made with Irish honey. Right? The color is almost. I mean, it's as clear as you could possibly get, close to sort of very, very white, snow white colored honey.
Mm.
So originally we were going to call it Ishka, which is the Irish word for water. But then we decided that the government here probably wouldn't appreciate the reference to the word Ishka being too close to whiskey and Ishkabata and the other sort of words that are tied to whiskey. So we decided to call it by the name of the river that's outside the front door of the facility, which is called the Garavogue.
Cool.
So it's Garavogue Irish mead.
Okay.
And then produced by Celtic Meadery in Sligo, right? So if I enter or I need to buy something else, Queens or Hives, we'll basically pay them money to do that.
Okay.
Because we want to see the honey. We want to see other extract as bees have no borders. That's kind of a little tagline that's on each bottle, right? And it's both. It's multi-tiered, right? Of course, right? So you got people who are sort of not to get political, but there's people on both sides of the border that don't want to ever have the 190 grams or minus, somewhere in that range, right? Take 10% of that, that's 19 grand. You throw it back at beekeepers, and you say, hey, how many beehives can I buy with that? We're just going to say, look, here's 20 grand, whatever it is this year, and then next year, if we do a double-sized batch, that'll be 40, and then next year, if we do a bigger batch, that'll be 80, and then the next thing you know, you've got maybe this pay for them and meat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what the time period was, but it was sometime, in the early 2000s, they actually started to put on their label that it was made with wine, flavored with honey. Mm-hmm. But they still got to call it mead, M-E-A-D.
Yep.
Right? And so there was a petition that was sent to TTB, by several other people in the industry back then, who basically requested that the word mead, M-E-A-D, be tied specifically to honey wine, and that if it wasn't made out of 100%, if it wasn't made out of honey, as per the regulations at the time, then you couldn't call it that. Mm-hmm. And the result of that was basically that that particular company had to change their name, the name of their product. And our government, being the wonderful organization that it is, decided that a spelling change of that particular word, adding an E to the end of the word mead, was sufficient to distinguish it from real M-E-A-D versus M-E-A-D-E.
That makes me want to go and check the bottle, because a couple of friends brought me back a little taster of that particular product a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's right. If you buy a bottle in Ireland, it is probably going to say M-E-A-D.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
Right? And then, so that company is affiliated with another company in England who used to make really good mead. Mm-hmm. And they label their product in the United States M-E-D-E.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's made exactly the same way. Basically, it's the same company making the same product. Just with two different labels on it in two different parts, one in England, one in Ireland, right? Mm-hmm. So I've sent in a petition to TTB, must be a year and a half ago, but this is how long these things take, to basically require that any label of any product that is specifically designated as mead, aka honey wine, per the regulations in the United States, cannot use any designator that is similar. M-E-A-D, M-E-A-D-E, M-E-D-E, M-I-O-D, M-J-O-D, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because those are all synonymous with the exact same thing, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll see if we can pull that one off, which would be good because there's a lot of other products on the market that are basically not mead, but they're marketing themselves as mead.
Yeah.
So that's the Irish project, right? So back again in January, make another big batch, and then we'll let that do its thing in the tank, and then we'll go back and we'll check on it periodically. I've got some other technology that I'm looking at implementing over there, so I can keep an eye on it from here, right? Which is kind of part of the other thing that we can talk about as well, right? So, you know, how can you make something in a foreign country 6,000, 7,000 miles away and keep an eye on it?
Yeah.
Right. Well, the technology exists.
Yeah.
We're able to somehow market it in the United States as the self-proclaimed high capital of planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I figure, you know, it's probably the most expensive place in the world to open a meadery and try and keep employees hired and paid well. So if you can't get enough employees to do the things that you need to do, there are lots of menial tasks that still need to be done every day that somebody has to do. And if I can find a way to automate that process, I'm going to, right? It might be as simple as cleaning a tank, right? I mean, everybody knows about CIP technologies, right? I can buy a machine that automates the CIP process. Somebody still has to go hook up the hoses, connect them, drain the tanks, rinse them, monitor the whole process, right? What if I could do that just by looking at a touch screen sitting in my desk in my office and say, oh, look, tank number 2 is done fermenting. Let's filter it and automate that filtration process by connecting my basically fully automated cross-flow filter to that tank, and then look to see if another tank that the product needs to go into when it's filtered is empty. If there is an empty tank, then the system can say, okay, tank 2 is empty, CIP it first, right? Just push a button. When the tank gets CIP'd, right? Once the tank is CIP'd, it's ready to be filled. So now you can say, okay, start filtration on tank, you know, S2, whatever the tank number is, right? And then that whole process is done. And I don't have to go out back and do anything, right? Because all the tanks will be connected together, right? All through central manifold that's all pneumatically actuated or actuated through, you know, actuated ball valves, right? So the simple things that you can do to automate stuff are not always the easiest, but they are the things you can do the fastest, right? Because you can, if I wanted to do that exact same thing that I just talked about, right? I'd have to spend a day prepping the tanks, right? So CIP the tanks, clean them, sanitize them, you know, clean and sanitize hoses, set the filtration machine up, get that all hooked up, and then the next day or that night, hit the start button, right? And then the following day, shut the machine down. Then I got to disconnect all the hoses, clean, sanitize all the hoses, clean CIP the filter machine, and then clean, filter, sanitize the tank that the product came out of. So there's basically 3 days out of my week, right?
Yeah.
So what if I could just automate that by pushing a button? The system takes care of that all in the background, and now I can still go out and do other things, right? I can do more planning. I can hang around in the tap room with customers. I can go out and do more sales in the field if I need to, right? Or I can just take a day off.
Yeah.
Right. And those machines, you know, not that people are a bad thing. Of course they're not, right? It's just in my current situation here in Silicon Valley, it's just not feasible to have as many people as I would like to have. So I looked at ways of automating as many of the processes as I could, right? So originally, if you look at pretty much any brewery or any winery in the world, they're already doing some level of automation just by default.
Yeah,
right?
They have to. They're big.
Well, think about it. You've got a temperature probe. It's in your tank.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sitting there going, okay, so, yep, temperature's going up. Yep, open the valve valve, turn on the glycol. Right? So it's already doing that at a very sort of, you know, basic level, right? Just turning on and off the cooling system to keep the temperature inside the tank of that fermenting product at the temperature you want it. And the same thing goes when you put product into a conditioning tank, right? You want to make sure that the temperature is low enough so If the temperature bumps up a little bit, turn it back on, cool it down, right? Now, what if you take that one step further, right? So now I've got a tank that can automate the sort of the cooling part of it. Well, how about automating the regulation of pressure in that tank, in a tank that's conditioning product that's carbonating, right? Well, what do? You say, well, I need to have 3.96 atmospheres of CO2 in this particular product. Do it. And then it looks at a little table inside its own little computer and says, okay, to get to this level of CO2 saturation, the product needs to be at this temperature, and then the head pressure needs to be at this particular pressure. Right? So it does a lookup at a table that I put together, and it says, okay, so we'll say for 2 atmospheres, right? So 2 atmospheres is an easy one because it's 3.96 grams per 100 liters, right? So it's the limit that you can have in a still product and still be under the tax rate for TTB, for sparkling, right? It's basically 2 atmospheres. So what is that? Well, 42 degrees, it's like 6.9 psi. Okay, well, how long does it take to carbonate something to that level if I just hook a hose up and give it head pressure in the top of the tank? Multiple days, right? Because you're just basically, you're introducing pressure in the top of the tank, and as the liquid dissolves that CO2 into solution, just more comes in, right? So it's a slow process. Well, breweries do it by injecting the CO2 through a carbonation stone, right? Either like a ceramic or a sintered steel carbonation stone. But then you still have a guy standing there, right? What he's doing is basically he's looking at the tank. He's got the pressure gauge turned on. He's done the math to calculate how much product is in the tank. So what's the head pressure from the top of the carb stone up to the top of the liquid? What temperature does the tank need to be at to get to the carbonation level that I want? And what's the pressure that I need to have in the head space in order to carbonate it? And I'll go through multiple steps, turn the gas on, let it run, let it come up to pressure, turn the gas off, probably purge the tank, and do that again. So 2 or 3 times, and then I'll have a carbonated product. And that'll take maybe 3 or 4 hours. What if your computer did that for you? You don't have to stand there and do it, right?
Right.
So I just program the computer. I tell it I want this much pressure and I want to carbonate the product. I don't want to hold it at a maintenance mode, we'll say, right? So it'll basically say, okay, the pressure in the tank needs to be this high because I know that the carbonation stone has a wetting pressure of, we'll say, 3 psi. I've got a ultrasonic transducer sitting on the top of my tank that tells me how much liquid is in the tank. And so I can calculate the difference between the height of the carb stone to the top of the liquid. So now I can calculate what the head pressure is. So I know what the pressure needs to be in order to actually push the CO2 through the carb stone, given the volume of liquid in the tank, or the wetting pressure of the carb stone, et cetera, right? So it's all, the computer can figure all of this out because it has sensors that look at all of this information. So I built a computer, basically a PLC, with all the different sensors that looks at pressure, temperature, volume of product in the tanks. Now all I do is I go over to a touch screen and I just tell it 2 atmospheres. And it does all the math, calculates everything, and opens up the CO2 valve, brings it up to 1/3 of the desired pressure, opens up another valve to purge the tank, closes that valve, opens up the CO2 valve, brings it up to 2/3 of the pressure, repeats the process, and then the 3rd time it brings it up to the full pressure. And then I've got basically a carbonated tank in probably 35, 45 minutes.
Dang.
Right, depending on the volume in the tank. Right, and I didn't have to be there. So I can sit there and say, I can just pick up my phone right now and I could go online. I can connect to the computer at the meadery and I can tell it, oh, tank 1's got this much product in it. This is what the product is. This is what the temperature is. This is how much is in the tank. And this is what the CO2 pressure is in the tank. Right? Now, I originally built this system to do one thing, and that was basically to monitor the water in the building. because about 9 years ago we had a pipe burst and basically flooded the building when we were gone on a 3-day weekend.
Oh.
So
Nice.
you come back on a Monday and there's basically you've got Lake Birchwood out front of the street, and there's water pouring out every crack, crevice, orifice in the entire building, and it's 4 inches deep on the inside.
Oh my God.
So I figured I needed a way to automate something that could detect if there was water on the floor. If the level of that water went up, flip a switch in a computer and turn off a valve that turns off the water mains.
Oh.
Right. So I did that, and while I was doing that, I said, well, heck, why don't I just extend this computer thing and kind of let it manage the tanks? So I basically configured that machine with a touchscreen interface so I could manage the cooling system, the glycol. And I was just scratching my head. I was like, well, heck, this thing can do. It's got plenty of capacity, and it could just manage the carbonation stones too. And then I looked around, and I found a solution to actually measure the volume in the tank without having to have float levels inside the tank. Right? It's an ultrasonic sensor. It mounts on the top of the tank. It shoots a beam, ultrasound down the tank, bounces back up, and it tells it within a millimeter what the difference in the distance is between the head and the liquid. You know what the diameter of the tank is on the inside, right? So it's easy to calculate, just simple math, what the quantity of liquid is from the surface of the liquid to the bottom in a known volume, in a known size tank, right? So that's kind of what the original system does, right? And that's what I have running today. Basically, automate as much of the process as I possibly can. My cross flow is fully automated, so I can just basically connect a hose to it from one tank to the other, push a button, and I walk away. It'll filter 4,000 gallons in about 6 or 7 hours, depending on the sugar level. Next day I come back, I clean the machine, and then I've got the product all filtered. That used to take someone 3 days or 4 days to accomplish, right? Because you have to go from tank A into tank B at one filter level, we'll say 5 micron. And then you go from tank B, then you got to wash tank A, and then you got to put it back in tank A. And then you got to repeat that process back and forth until you get down to 0.45 micron, which is what our target was. So, maybe you go from 3 micron or 5 micron, 3 micron, 1 micron, half a micron. That's four different filtration levels for the same product, and every step of the way you're losing product, right? Because it's all dripping out, and plus you're wasting filter material. The cross-flow filter basically just wants to be cleaned every now and then, right? So you run it, you clean it, run it again, and it doesn't care. So the next step in the automation process for us is basically to, like I said, hard pipe all the tanks together through a central manifold that's controlled by the computer. And then the computer can decide, okay, it knows what volumes are in a tank. So when I say filter the tank that's fermenting, it'll automatically pop up and say, would you like to put it in tank 2, 3, 4, 5, whichever one is available? And I'll just say, okay, tank 5, and off we'll go. And if tank 5 hasn't got a status of clean, then it will go ahead and we'll clean it. Right? So the goal basically is, because I can't get enough people to work for me here, is just to try and automate it as much as I can, so I don't have to do it. Right?
Yeah.
And then I'm talking with a very, very large company. They're in the wine industry primarily, for alcohol beverage industry. Right? They make systems for winemakers to analyze and monitor and control the winemaking process. Well, they've got a little gizmo. You might have heard it's called Anton Par Alkalizer, right? It's like a $20,000 machine. You put it on your desk, you take a sample out of your tank, you drip it into the thing, you push a button, and it comes back and it says, this much sugar, this much alcohol, right? This much dissolved CO2, this much dissolved oxygen, yada, yada, yada. Well, that's awesome, I said, but I'm not going to spend $20,000 for something that I have to manually operate. I said, do you have one of these that will do it automatically for me? And they said, well, let us look into it. So they came back to me this year with a device that I can plug into the side of one of my fermenters, connect it to my computer, and it will monitor the fermentation actively, continuously throughout the entire fermentation process.
Holy crap.
And deliver the information to the computer.
Cool.
Very cool.
So now I can take the product that's in the tank while it's fermenting, program it to automatically say, once I reach this desired level of fermentation, let's just say 30% as an example, dose it with this much of these nutrients that are already in a dosing pump. Right? Keep doing that on the schedule that I want for the way that I make my particular products. And then at the end of the process, once it reached the target sugar level, crash it down temperature, right? That's automatic because you can just tell it to flip a switch on the glycol valve and do that. And then turn the filter on and filter it and go through the filtration process. So now basically all I have to ever do is put the honey and water mixture in the tank.
Oh, and figure out what kind of honey and water mixture you're going to do, recipes and stuff.
Yeah, so the tech has told you. Just basically say, I've reached the target gravity. Here's a text message. So now I can say, oh, great, now I can just zip over there, right? Or I might just actually just push a button on the screen and tell it to do what I wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah. Now, yeah.
Even that would be simple, right? Yeah, there's lots of ways to skin a cat, as they say, right?
Yeah.
But, I think you think you want. I don't know how big they think I am, but it's certainly not A bad. So there you go. So that's the plan for 2020 as far as the automation. Continue on the automating of as much of the processes as we have today, while still keeping your fingers in the mix to make the actual product, right? Automate the things that make sense to automate. Otherwise, just do it yourself.
Yeah. I saw Brad was breadboarding
Right.
some stuff. He's doing some interesting things, but
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're his inspiration on that. He keeps
I don't know if I'd necessarily call it inspiration. I think more of I kind of give him the bug. I don't know if that's inspiration, but
Yeah.
People from the tech world kind of look at it and they go, "Oh shit, I could do that." Like, yeah, okay, great, then do it, right? So he did it to automate all of the cooling system for all of his tanks, right? And that was his first goal.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to have 25 different individual controllers for all of the tanks individually, right? He just wanted to have one central display that he could come to or look at it remotely. And so I talked to him about it. When he came out to visit me last year, he looked at what I built, and I said, well, you could build this. You're a tech person. You could easily build it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. They get pretty creative. John's been a PLC guy for 30 years, and I mean, what he doesn't know about PLCs, you could fit in a very small container. I mean, he's literally been in it since the 80s, and yeah, when I told him what you were doing, he practically was salivating. He's like, oh my God, because he was that week I was at when I stopped into your place. That was the week that he had to travel and basically left me in San Francisco. Said bye. I had to drop him at the airport. Yeah, he couldn't come by.
Right. Yeah, but the like I said, the PLCs, they're kind of proprietary. They're not of open source. So if you wanted to add on a function to it, you couldn't. Right. So what you have to do is you have to do things like he would do. Right. It's basically you do something that is kind of in the real world of programming computers or software programming. You would do something. Right. In this particular world, you can't do that. So you have to kind of figure out, is there a workaround? And so you do workarounds. So you make your code ends up being a little bit bigger than you wanted it to be. It's less efficient, but it still does what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I used to listen to him bitch for hours about SCADA and and all of this stuff that's going on with it, and when they were programming programming these things, because he's done the programming of them, the selling of them, the designing of the systems with them. I mean, pretty much everything having to do with PLCs, he's been in on every aspect of it. So yeah, when I told him all about it, he was just sick that he'd miss conversation, because basically it would have been you and him talking then, and I would have been sitting there going, oh, this is interesting. I have no idea what they're saying.
Well, there's the two parts of it too, right? There's the whole sort of, write the code that does what you want it to do, that talks to all of these different sensors. But then there's also the physical construction of the actual boxes that hold